The next thing is I want to be able to see how much health that I have. And so that, because right now, like, it's hard to tell how many lives I have in the game, and so I want to be able to draw that. Now, first, I'm going to create some sprites that I'm going to use to draw. Drawing health, and I'm going to use the kind of Legend of Zelda style where there's heart containers that are drawn up in the top left corner of the screen. Filled in hearts show life, and empty hearts show life that you've lost, and the total number of hearts will be your total health. So if that didn't quite make sense, we'll just see as we draw this. So in sprites, I'm going to create a sprite, and I'm going to call this empty, or SPR. I'm going to call this SPR empty heart. Okay. And make sure my draw point is in the top left. So I'm going to shrink down my size. I think I'll go with 16 by 16 pixels. So now, to draw a filled-in heart container, I'll just copy this. And actually, better than that. So now to create a filled-in heart, just right-click and duplicate. And I'll call this SPR full heart, and just draw it in a different color. So take the fill box, pick a nice red, fill it. All right, and now I have a red version of the heart. So the next item is, after I've keeping track of my hearts and I have a way of drawing, I need to actually draw them to the screen. Now, since the thing that is tracking health is the object player, I'm going to take care of the drawing here rather than in the object controller, which is just dealing with score. So I'm going to go to Add Event and look for Draw and Draw GUI. And here, going to look for Draw Actions. And so first I'm going to draw all of the empty hearts, and then I'm going to draw the full hearts on top of them. So what I look for is the Draw Stacked Sprites. This will be for drawing my empty hearts. And I look for our sprite empty heart, and stack them horizontal so that they show up horizontally as I add more of them. And I'll set the number to max lives. And then we'll set a buffer location for it. So I think the way I'm going to organize, and I want this to be to the right of my score. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to try 128 on the X, and then Y on, and 5 on the Y. Let's just take a quick look as to what this looks like before I go in any further. So now, there I have my stacked sprites right over there. It's a little bit small, but that's okay. Actually, I can fix that pretty quick. And they're also a little bit far over, so I'm going to shrink this down. Let's try 80. And I'm also going to increase the size of my sprites. So 16 by 16 is a little small. Let's go with 32 by 32, apply it to there, and then also to the full size heart. And apply, and let's see what this looks like. Okay, that's now not quite enough space. It's kind of crowding my score, but I'm liking the size of them. So I'll just go back to the player in this Draw GUI event and increase this number a bit more. Let's try 100. Run that, and there we are. That looks all right. Next, draw the full hearts on top of the empty ones, indicating how many lives I have. And for that, I can just look for the draw instance lives. And this is making use of that built-in lives variable. So for here, I use the sprite full heart and give it the same offset on the screen. So I'm using 100 on the X and 5 on the Y. So now let's see what this does. Right, great. So now I have a full 3 lives right there. And let's see what happens when I get hit. Okay, and I lose a heart when I get hit by a projectile. If I get hit by another projectile, there's another one, and then all 3 are gone, and the game resets. So the last thing I'd like to add on this is a way for the player to regenerate their health. So for the enemies, when defeating them, to occasionally drop hearts, and if the player touches one of those hearts, then they get some of their health back. Think about when this happens. Well, it's when an enemy is destroyed. So look at our enemy. And on its destroy event, and take a look here. So in addition to just increasing the score, we'll also drop a heart, but only maybe. So since it's something that might happen, look up random, and we'll get a random number. And this is not applying to the controller. This is going to be, being right where it is. So get a random number and make it between 0 and 100 for, to make it look like percentages. And I'm just going to call this variable drop chance. And make it temporary because I'm only using it for the life of the script. And now go into if expression, so check if expression is true or false. And if drop chance is less than, and then here we can just put in whatever number we want the chance of a drop to be. So I'll say 33. So that'll be a 33% chance that this will evaluate to true. And if it is true, then this is where we create a heart. So create instance, and I'll just make it a full heart, which we don't have an object yet. So let's go ahead and create that. This is going to be the heart that gets dropped by enemies into our scene. So objects, create object, and I'm going to call this obj heart. And for our sprite, we'll just use the full heart. And then also and go back. So now I can finish this off in our destroy. For create, we can now select this object heart, and we'll just drop the heart right where the enemy disappears. So just leave it at 0, 0, and tick both of the relative tick boxes. The rest you can leave as is. So that creates a chance of the enemies dropping a heart. And now, the last thing is we want the heart to actually give health to the player if they touch it. Right here in our heart, just go to add event and collision with the player. And since we already have this script for damage player, we can just use that again and pass in a different value. So execute script. And I'm realizing that damage player is a bit of a strange name since it doesn't always cause damage, but we could kind of think of it as like inverting it. So pass in 1 right here, and that should be all. So now if I run the game, there's some enemies here, and if I defeat them, see, it looks like I've already lost a health. Let's see if I can get a heart to appear. And it doesn't look like that's happening. Oh wait, yes, yes it did actually. So to make it a little easier to debug and make it more obvious as to whether this heart code is working or not, I'm going to increase the chance of this working. So right now it's if this drop chance, it could be anything between 0 and 100, and it only follows if it's less than 33, so it's like a 33%. I'm going to raise that up to 99. So it's almost certain every time an enemy is defeated that a heart will be created. And let's see. And I'm not seeing that heart appear. That's the issue, is that the hearts are big, and so they're touching the player almost as soon as it's created. You never see it appear for it to be picked up. Like if I move, it was only there for a flash. So I want to shrink down this heart, which is going to require shrinking down the sprite, but that's a bit of a problem because I like the size of the sprite for the GUI. So I'm just going to duplicate this. So select the sprite full heart, press Control D, and I'll say I'm going to change this to sprite heart pickup. And now in my size, I'm going to shrink this down to 16 by 16 and apply. And now I can say in my objects, object heart, I will, instead of using the full heart, I'll use the heart pickup and keep the event as it is. I also don't need to change the enemies. The enemy is still creating the same object. It just has a new sprite, and the sprite is smaller. So let's see if we can see those hearts now when I defeat enemies. Okay, and there's one, there's another one, and there they are. And there's a 99% chance of me creating them, so there's getting lots of them around. All right, so now that I know that works, I'm going to drop that chance of creation back down to 33%, because I think that's fairly well balanced, and run this game. And there we go. So let's see, no heart for that one, no heart for that one. Go down here. Here's some enemies, none for that one, but I get one for that. And it replenishes my health. As you can see, the number of hearts will decrease when I get hit by a projectile. And so that is all. We have basically a fully playable game at this point, with win and loss conditions, and kind of a gradually increasing difficulty, a way to, if you make a mistake, you can recover from it, but too many and you'll eventually lose. So yeah, there's plenty of things that certainly could be added to this game. I mean, game design, you can always increase scope. That's an endless sort of thing. Specific things that come to mind for this game is some sound, sound effects, music, a title screen at the beginning, a game over screen at the end that allows the player some time to reset. And then just also making the artwork better. There's all kinds of polish that we could potentially add to this, but this is a complete game right here, so I'm going to say that is all for this tutorial series. So thank you very much for watching. I am Will Patillo, signing out.